We arrived at our house and found all our things on the lawn. Our daughter-in-law appeared and said, "We decided to do some cleaning. That old stuff is useless." I looked her in the eye and answered calmly, "Then we're also going to clean out what's no longer useful to us." I took out my cell phone. It was time to show who was really in charge here. And when we asked our daughter-in-law what it all meant, she looked at us with that fake smile we knew so well and said she was cleaning because she needed space for the baby. She sent us to the utility room, that damp little room where we kept old boxes. But what she didn't know was that we were going to do some cleaning too, and ours was going to be much deeper. My name is Arthur Miller. I'm 65 years old, and my whole life I worked at the Ford plant in Cleveland, Ohio. My wife Helen and I have been married for 43 years. We raised 3 children in this house in the Maple Creek neighborhood, a house we bought brick by brick with the sweat of my brow and the extra money Helen made sewing at night. Robert is the oldest, he's 38. Then there's Megan, 35, who lives in Chicago with her family, and Jack, the youngest at 32, an engineer in Pittsburgh. The house was always our pride. 3 bedrooms, a yard where Helen grew her geraniums and herbs, a living room with the mahogany furniture we inherited from my in-laws. It wasn't a mansion, but it was ours. Every corner had a story. Every wall held the pencil marks where we measured the kids' height as they grew. Robert, our eldest, was always the most attached. After college, he went to work in Detroit, but 2 years ago, he lost his job at a parts supplier. He showed up one day looking haggard with 2 suitcases. He asked to stay temporarily while he found something. We said yes without a second thought. He's our son, our blood. The house had plenty of space since the other 2 had left. He met Patricia on a dating app. She worked at a boutique downtown, or so she told us. She was pretty, we can't deny that, with her long hair and her always perfect nails. But there was something in her eyes that Helen never trusted. She said Patricia was too sweet to us, that no one is that nice without wanting something in return. I told her not to be so suspicious, to give her a chance. Now I regret not listening. They got married a year after they met. A simple wedding in the backyard with Father Michael from St. Jude's Parish. Patricia insisted on living with us. She said they were saving for their own place, that it would only be for a few months. We agreed. After all, the house was big, and Robert seemed happy. We hadn't seen him smile like that in a long time. The first few months were calm. Patricia would cook once in a while, help with the cleaning, but slowly, the changes began. First, it was small comments about the old furniture, about how the house needed to be modernized. Then she started moving things without asking. One day we came home and she had thrown out the living room curtains, the ones Helen had embroidered with so much love. When we asked, she said they were old-fashioned, that she had already bought new ones. Robert said nothing. When we tried to talk to him, he would just say that Patricia had good taste and we should let her be. We started to feel like strangers in our own home. We no longer watched TV in the living room because the noise bothered her. We no longer invited our old friends over on Sundays because Patricia said she needed to rest. Then came the requests for money. First, it was to fix Robert's car, then to pay off some credit card debt he had accumulated. We agreed because he was our son. We had our life savings, my pension from Ford, which wasn't much, but it was enough, and a little money we had saved from selling a small plot of land upstate. We gave Robert access to our savings account for emergencies. That was our biggest mistake. 3 months ago, Rose died. My younger sister lived in Georgia with her family. Cancer took her in 2 months, so fast we barely had time to say goodbye. Helen and I traveled to the funeral. They were 4 painful days of wakes and prayers, of hugging my nephews who were devastated. When we got on the bus back to Cleveland, we were exhausted, our souls in pieces. I was still wearing the black suit from the burial, Helen her dark dress. We hadn't slept well in days. We got home around 7 inches the evening. The sun hadn't fully set yet. When we got out of the taxi, the first thing we saw was our yard. There were black trash bags piled up by the gate, and among the bags, thrown carelessly, were our photo albums. I recognized the green cover of our wedding album. Helen let out a choked cry. We ran towards the yard. There were our things. The box with the letters I wrote to Helen when we were dating, the embroidered shawl that had been my mother's, the house deed, the framed photo of our parents, the blessed rosary a friend brought us from Jerusalem, all mixed up, dirty, as if they were worthless. We ran into the house. Patricia was in the living room, sitting on the new couch they had bought last month, looking at her phone. When she saw us, she smiled. That smile that I now understand was one of triumph. "Good evening, in-laws," she said, as if nothing was wrong. "How was Georgia?" Helen was trembling beside me. I tried to stay calm. "Patricia, what's the meaning of our things being thrown outside?" She stood up, smoothing down the pink dress she was wearing. "Oh, I'm doing some cleaning. We need space." "Space for what?" I asked. She touched her belly with both hands, though nothing showed. "I'm pregnant. Almost 3 months along. The baby will need its own room, so Robert and I decided that you can stay in the utility room. It's smaller, but at your age you don't need that much space, right?" I was speechless. Helen started to cry silently. "The utility room?" I repeated, "That damp room where a bed barely fits?" Patricia nodded as if she were being very reasonable. "Yes, I've already put your main things in there. Well, the things that are still useful. The rest is outside because it's really no good anymore. You have to let go of the past, don't you think?" "Robert," I called out. "Where's Robert?" "He went out to buy some things for dinner. He'll be back in a bit." Helen and I looked at each other. 43 years of marriage teaches you to communicate without words. I saw in her eyes the same pain and rage I felt, but I also saw something else, something that surprised me, a spark of determination. "All right, Patricia," I said with a calm I didn't feel. "Let's see the room." We walked towards the back of the house. The utility room was next to the laundry area. When we opened the door, the smell of dampness hit us in the face. They had crammed our things in however they could. Our clothes hung from hooks on the wall because there was no closet. Our queen-sized bed didn't fit, so they had put in a single folding cot. One cot. In the corner, boxes of our things were piled up, all mixed together. I saw our wedding photo thrown on top of a box of old shoes. Helen sat on the folding cot and began to cry harder. I knelt beside her, taking her hands. They were ice cold despite the September heat. "Arthur," she whispered, "what are we going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, "but we are not going to be humiliated like this." We spent hours in that room trying to sort our things. There was a frayed wire coming out of the wall, a damp spot on the ceiling that looked like a map. The mattress on the cot smelled of mildew. There was no window, just a small transom that opened to the neighbor's wall. When it got dark, we came out. We needed to talk to Robert. We knocked on the door of what had been our bedroom, the one we built, the one with the large window overlooking the yard, the one we painted sky blue when we got married. Robert opened it. He was wearing a new brand-name t-shirt. He looked tired, but also uncomfortable. "Dad, Mom," he said without looking us in the eye. "Son, we need to talk," I said. "Now's not a good time. Patricia isn't feeling well. The pregnancy has her very sensitive." "Robert, this isn't right," Helen intervened. "They kicked us out of our bedroom. Our things are thrown in the yard." I know, but we do need the space. The baby's on the way, and this is our house, son," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your mother and I bought it. You were only supposed to stay for a few months. I know, Dad. And I thank you for everything, but things have changed. I'm going to be a father now. I have to think about my family. We are your family," Helen said. Robert ran a hand over his face. "Yes, of course, but she's my wife. She's the mother of my child. I can't stress her out. The doctor said she needs to be calm." "And us?" I asked. "We don't matter?" "Of course you matter. That's why we let you have the utility room. You could have gone to a nursing home or something, but no, you can stay here." I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. Helen choked back a sob. "Robert, son," I began to say. "Dad, please, I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow. Give Patricia time to get used to things. Everything will be fine." And he closed the door in our faces. We walked back to the little room. Helen was crying without a sound. I felt a mixture of sadness and rage I couldn't control. We sat on that folding cot that creaked with every movement. She rested her head on my shoulder. "Arthur," she said after a long silence, "do you remember the notebook?" "Which notebook?" "The expense ledger, the one I've kept since we got married." "Yes, I remember." "Why?" because I wrote down when we gave Robert access to the account and all the times he asked us for money. The dates, the amounts. Did you bring it? Helen nodded. It's in one of the boxes. I always carry it. It's a habit. She got up and started searching through the boxes. I turned on the small room's lamp, an old lamp that gave off little light. Finally, she found the brown hardcover notebook with its corners worn by the years. She sat next to me and opened it. She flipped through the pages until she reached the last few months. Her finger trembled as she pointed at the entries. Look, Arthur, in February we gave them $5,000 for the car. Yes, I remember. In March, another $3,000 to pay off his credit cards. In April, we gave him access to the savings account. He told us it was just for emergencies, that he wouldn't even use it. That's what he said. Helen turned the page. In May, I noted a withdrawal of $8,000. I asked them, and Robert said it was for a course he needed to take. I remember that. He said it was to get certified in some computer thing. In June, another withdrawal, $12,000. He said it was to fix the roof that was leaking. Helen looked at me. Arthur, the roof never leaked. I felt a knot form in my stomach. Go on. In July, $15,000. In August, Arsha Sanbei. 22,300 美步. 22,300? I repeated, incredulous. He said it was to pay off a tax debt of Patricia's. Helen started adding up the numbers with a pencil on a separate sheet. I watched her do the math, her hands trembling. When she finished, the number she wrote left me breathless. $65,300, she whispered. What? In 8 months, Arthur, they've taken $65,300 of our savings. It can't be, but I knew it could be. I knew Helen wasn't wrong with the numbers. She never had been. For 43 years, she had kept that ledger with the precision of a certified public accountant. We have to check the bank statement, I said. We'll go to the bank first thing tomorrow. We didn't sleep that night. We stayed there, holding each other on that uncomfortable folding cot, in that room that smelled of dampness, listening to the laughter coming from our old bedroom. Patricia and Robert were watching something on TV. Our TV. In our room. In our house. But I no longer felt just sadness. I felt something stronger, a determination I hadn't felt in years. Not since I confronted the union at the plant for our rights, not since I fought for compensation for my injured coworkers. Helen, I whispered in the dark. Yes, we're going to get our stuff back. She squeezed my hand. I know. And we're going to do it right. With paperwork, with a lawyer, all legal. Do you remember Mr. Davis? The one who helped us with the land sale. I'll call him tomorrow. I stared at the stained ceiling. The anger kept me awake, but also a strange clarity, like when you solve a difficult problem at work and suddenly everything makes sense. We had been too trusting, too good, and they had taken advantage of us in the worst way. At 6 inches the morning, we were already awake. Neither of us had slept a wink. Helen got up first, smoothing out the wrinkled dress she still wore from the funeral. I put on my shoes, and we left the small room with the ledger under my arm. In the kitchen, we made coffee. Our kitchen, where Helen had cooked thousands of meals, where we had had coffee every morning for decades, now we felt like intruders. The new furniture Patricia had bought, the different set of cups, everything felt foreign. At 8:30, I called Mr. Davis. His secretary, Mrs. Rosario, answered. Mr. Rosario. Miller, how nice to hear from you. How is Mrs. Miller? Fine, thank you, Rosario. We need to see Mr. Davis. It's urgent. Let me check his schedule. He can see you today at 11. Perfect. I hung up and looked at Helen. We have an appointment at 11. First, we go to the bank, she said with that firm voice she used when she made an important decision. We left the house without saying goodbye to anyone. Patricia and Robert were still sleeping. We took the bus to the bank branch downtown. It was 9 o'clock when we arrived. Helen carried the ledger, and I had the account papers. The bank teller who helped us was named Brenda, a nice young woman. When we explained what we needed, her smile turned to concern. Let me check the transactions, she said, typing on her computer. A few eternal minutes passed. Brenda frowned as she reviewed the screen. Mr. Miller, ma'am, there have indeed been several large withdrawals in recent months. Did you authorize these transactions? We gave our son access to our account, Helen explained. He told us it was only for emergencies. I see. Look, here are the transactions. In total, from February until now, $65,300 have been withdrawn. Helen squeezed my hand. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was one thing to see it in the ledger, another to hear it from a bank employee. It was real. A simple wedding in the backyard with Father Michael from St. Jude's Parish. Patricia insisted on living with us. She said they were saving for their own place, that it would only be for a few months. We agreed. After all, the house was big and Robert seemed happy. Did you authorize these transactions? We gave our son access to our account, Helen explained. He told us it was only for emergencies. I see. Look, here are the transactions. In total, from February until now, $65,300 have been withdrawn. Helen squeezed my hand. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was one thing to see it in the ledger, another to hear it from a bank employee. It was real. The money we had saved for our old age, for any medical emergency, to leave something for our children, all spent in 8 months. On the bus to Mr. Davis's office, Helen broke the silence. Do you remember Mrs. Gable, the neighbor? Yes. The other day she mentioned something I didn't pay much attention to. What did she say? That she'd seen Patricia and Robert driving around in a new car, a red Mustang, and that Patricia was always carrying bags from expensive stores. We don't have a new car, I said. Exactly. And do you remember the mahogany furniture from the living room? The ones we inherited from your parents? Helen nodded. They're gone. I saw it yesterday when we went in. Patricia put in that modern white furniture. They sold them. It seems so. I felt the rage grow in my chest like a wave. The mahogany furniture was worth a fortune. They were antiques, pieces that Helen's father had commissioned from a craftsman in North Carolina. They were over 70 years old, and they had sold them as if they were junk. Mr. Davis's office was in an old downtown building, near the main square. We went up the stairs to the second floor. Mrs. Rosario greeted us with coffee and cookies. Come in, come in. Mr. Davis is expecting you. Mr. Davis was a man in his 60s with graying temples and thick glasses. We had known him for over 20 years. He had helped us with the deed to the house, the sale of the land upstate, with the will we made 10 years ago. Arthur, Helen, he said, standing up to greet us. What happened? Rosario told me it was urgent. We sat in front of his desk and began to tell him everything. We showed him the expense ledger, the bank statements. We explained about the utility room, the things thrown in the yard, the missing furniture. Mr. Davis listened in silence, taking notes. When we finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This is serious, he said finally. Very serious. But before we do anything, I need to ask you something important. The house deed is in whose name? Ours, Helen said immediately. Arthur's and mine. Do you have the deed here? No, it's at the house, in a file cabinet in what used to be our bedroom. Did you ever give Robert a power of attorney? Did you sign anything before a notary that gave him rights to the property? No, never, I said. We just told him he could stay while he found a job. Then, legally, we're talking about a verbal agreement. You lent him the house. That means the property is still completely yours, and you can request that they vacate at any time. I felt a huge weight lift from my chest. Really? Helen asked. Really? The house is yours. Now the matter of the money is more complicated. If you voluntarily gave them access to the account, even if it was under false pretenses, it's harder to legally prove it was theft. So, we can't do anything? I asked, feeling hope slip away. I didn't say that. We can sue for breach of trust and misappropriation of funds. With the bank statements and your wife's ledger, we can show there was excessive and unauthorized use of the funds. And if we can prove there was deception about the destination of the money, we have a strong case. And what about the furniture? Helen asked. That's unauthorized sale of another's property. If you can prove that furniture belonged to you and that they sold it without your consent, we can also take legal action. Mr. Davis leaned back in his chair. Look, I'll be honest with you. This is going to be difficult and painful. He's your son. You're going to have to make some very tough decisions. We've already made them, I said. We want our things back. With respect, with the law, but we want them back. All right, then we'll proceed like this. First, I need you to bring the deed to the house. Second, we're going to make an official inventory of all the missing items. Third, we're going to prepare a formal eviction notice. We'll give them 30 days to vacate, or if they prefer to stay, they sign a formal lease agreement with monthly rent at market price. Rent? Helen asked, surprised. Yes, if they want to stay in your house, they can pay to live there. And part of that rent can go towards covering the $65,300 debt. It's a way to gradually recover your money. I liked that idea. We weren't throwing them out on the street, but we weren't being the fools they could walk all over either. How long would all this take? I asked. It depends on how cooperative they are. If they accept the conditions, we can have everything ready in a week. If they refuse and we have to go the full legal route, it could be months. But the advantage is that the house is indisputably yours. That gives us a lot of negotiating power. Do it, Mr. Davis, Helen said firmly. Whatever you have to do, do it. All right, I'll prepare the documents. In the meantime, you get the deed and make a detailed list of everything that's missing or was sold. If you have photos of the furniture, even better. And I want you to start documenting everything. If there's more abuse, if they treat you badly, if you find more evidence of spending, write it all down. When should we come back? I asked. Come back the day after tomorrow. I'll have the papers ready by then. And one more thing, Arthur. Helen, prepare yourselves emotionally. This is going to make the family atmosphere very tense. Your son is not going to react well. He hasn't reacted well since he married that woman, Helen said bitterly. We left the office with a mix of relief and nervousness. We knew a battle was coming, but at least now we had weapons to fight. We had the law on our side. When we got back to the house, it was almost lunchtime. Patricia was in the kitchen cooking something that smelled good. She looked at us with that fake smile when we came in. We spent hours in that room trying to sort our things. There was a frayed wire coming out of the wall, a damp spot on the ceiling that looked like a map. The mattress on the cot smelled of mildew. There was no window, just a small transom that opened to the neighbor's wall. When it got dark, we came out. You know, for family. Helen squeezed my arm. I knew she was holding me back. Of course, Patricia, I said. No problem. We went to our small room. Once there, Helen closed the door and leaned against it. Did you hear that? Family dinner. As if we weren't family. Let her be, I said. She'll see what a real family dinner is soon enough. That afternoon we spent making an inventory. Helen took out a notebook, and we started listing everything that was missing or had been moved. The mahogany furniture from the living room, the fine china set from the display cabinet, the Persian rugs my parents gave us for our wedding, an old wall clock, several paintings, the wicker rocking chair where Helen nursed our 3 children. Every item we wrote down was like a stab to the heart. It wasn't just the monetary value, it was what it represented: our memories, our history. We need the deed, Helen said. It's in the filing cabinet in the bedroom. How do we get it without them noticing? They're distracted with the dinner plans right now. I'll go. No, I'll go. Arthur, you're too obvious when you're nervous. Let me. Helen left the room. I waited, watching the clock. 5 minutes passed. 10, 15. I was starting to worry when she finally returned. She was carrying a manila envelope under her arm. Everything okay? I asked. Patricia was in the kitchen. Robert was in the living room on his phone. I went in, opened the cabinet, took the deed, and left. They didn't even notice. We opened the envelope. There it was, the deed to our house. Deed number 47592, in the names of Arthur Miller and Helen Miller. The document was 35 years old. We read it completely, checking for any modifications, any notes in the margin. Everything was in order. We'll take this to the lawyer tomorrow, I said. Around 8 p.m., the guests started to arrive. We heard the voices, the effusive greetings, Patricia's shrill voice introducing Robert. The doorbell rang several more times. Laughter, music, the smell of the food Patricia had prepared. We were in our small room eating some burgers we had bought from a place on the corner. Sitting on that folding cot, listening to the party happening in our house without us. At some point in the night, someone knocked on the door of our room. It was Robert. Mom? Dad? Are you awake? Yes, son, Helen said. Can I come in? Come on in, Robert entered. He was wearing a new, expensive-looking shirt. He looked uncomfortable, his hands in his pockets. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. I know it wasn't right to close the door on you like that. Sit down, son, I said, pointing to the only chair in the room. He avoided our eyes. Things have gotten out of my control, he said. Patricia, she's very sensitive with the pregnancy. The doctor says I can't contradict her, that it could affect the baby. Robert, Helen intervened, where's the mahogany furniture? He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. We sold it. We needed the money for the new furniture. How much did you get for it? About $2,000. Helen let out a choked cry. Robert, that furniture was worth over $20,000. It was antique. What? No. The guy at the furniture store. They ripped you off, son. Or worse, they sold it for much more and kept the difference. Robert ran his hand through his hair. I didn't know. Patricia handled that. And the money we've given you these past months? I asked. What was it spent on? House things, paying off debts? On? Robert, I interrupted. It's over $65,000. You don't spend that on house things in 8 months. He fell silent. I saw the truth starting to make him uncomfortable. Dad, At that moment, Patricia's voice came from the living room. Robert, honey, come here. My dad wants to get to know you better. Robert stood up quickly. I have to go. We'll talk later. And he left, leaving us alone again. He knows nothing, Helen said. Or he doesn't want to know. Or he's afraid to admit it. We stayed awake late, listening as the party continued. At one point, we heard Patricia announcing the pregnancy. Shouts of joy, applause, toasts the happiness that should have been ours too, the celebration from which we had been excluded. The next morning we woke up early. Helen made coffee, and we sat in our small room, reviewing everything we had. The deed, the bank statements, the inventory of what was missing, the expense ledger. We're ready, Helen said. Yes, we're ready. We left the house without a word. We took the bus downtown and went straight to Mr. Davis's office. We arrived even before it opened. We waited on the sidewalk until Mrs. Rosario arrived to open up. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, you're early birds. We brought everything the lawyer asked for, I said, showing her the envelope with the documents. Perfect. Come in. I'll let him know you're here. Mr. Davis came out of his office in his shirt sleeves with a coffee mug in his hand. He greeted us with a handshake and had us come in. All right, show me everything. We handed him the deed. He reviewed it carefully, page by page. Then he looked at the inventory we had made, the bank statements, the old photos we found showing the mahogany furniture. Perfect. This is very good. We have everything we need. Now I want to ask you something. Do your other children know about this situation? We've told them very little, Helen said. We didn't want to worry them. Well, they're going to have to know. And I need you to think about where you're going to stay while this is resolved. Do you have another place? We have my pension, I said. We could rent a small apartment. Good, because my recommendation is that you get out of that house as soon as possible. The atmosphere is going to become unbearable when we notify them of the conditions. What conditions, specifically? Helen asked. Mr. Davis pulled out some papers he had already prepared. Option 1, they vacate in 30 days. They leave, and you get the house back in the condition you gave it to them. Option 2, they sign a lease for $1,200 a month, which is the going rate for a house like that in your neighborhood. Of that $1,200, $600 goes directly to paying off the $65,300 debt plus 5% annual interest. The other $600 is for you. And if they refuse? I asked. Then we proceed legally. Eviction lawsuit. A complaint for misappropriation, a complaint for unauthorized sale of property. It will get very ugly, but you have every advantage. Do it, Helen said without hesitation. Prepare everything. Are you sure? He's our son, Mr. Davis, I said, looking him in the eye. My son stopped treating us like his parents the day he threw our things on the lawn. Now we need the law to treat us like what we are, the owners of that house. Mr. Davis nodded. I understand. I'll prepare the notice. They will receive it tomorrow afternoon. A process server will go to the house and deliver the documents to them personally. You don't have to be present. In fact, it's better if you're not. And then? Helen asked. Then they have 5 days to respond. In those 5 days, find a place for yourselves. Talk to your other children. Prepare for what's coming. We left the office with a knot in our stomachs. It was real. We were suing our own son. But we knew there was no other choice. Helen took out her phone. I'm going to call Megan. I'll call Jack. We moved apart a little to make the calls. I dialed Jack's number. My youngest son answered on the 3rd ring. Dad, everything okay? It's weird for you to call at this time. Son, I need to tell you something. Do you have time? Sure. Let me step out of this meeting. Give me a second. I heard background noise, a door closing, then his voice again. Okay, tell me, did something happen with Rob? I told him everything. From when we got back from Rose's funeral to the meeting with the lawyer, Jack didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a long silence. I can't believe it, he said finally. I mean, I can, because Rob has always been a bit of a pushover, but this much? Your mother and I didn't know what to do. That's why we hadn't told you anything. Dad, you should have told us from the beginning. Megan and I would have gone there to set things straight. I know, son. But it was our problem. We didn't want to involve you. You're our parents. Of course you have to involve us. Look, I'm going to talk to my boss to get a few days off. I'll be in Cleveland tomorrow night. Where are you going to stay? We don't know yet. We're going to look for an apartment. Forget it. You're staying in a decent hotel while we sort this out. I'll pay. Don't worry about it, son. It's not necessary. Dad, please, let me help. You've suffered enough. I hung up with tears in my eyes. Helen came over. She was crying too. What did Jack say? He's coming tomorrow. And Megan is furious too. She says she can't believe Robert would do this to you. We hugged each other right there on the street, not caring who saw us. 2 old people crying in front of a lawyer's office. But they weren't just tears of sadness. There was relief too. Our other children supported us. We weren't alone. Let's go find a hotel, Helen said, wiping her tears. We found one near downtown, simple but clean. We paid for 3 nights. The room had 2 single beds, a small bathroom, and a window overlooking the street. It was simple, but it felt like a palace compared to the utility room. We need to get our things, Helen said. Let's go now, while they're not there. We went back to the house. The red Mustang Mrs. Gable had mentioned was parked outside. It was new, gleaming, surely bought with our money. We went in quietly. The house was empty. We went straight to the small room and started packing the few things we had there. Clothes, important documents, the photos we had rescued. Helen packed her expense ledger, her mother's rosary, the embroidered shawl. While we packed, I took the opportunity to take pictures of everything. The living room with the new furniture, where the mahogany used to be, the dining room with modern chairs where the antique set we inherited used to be, the remodeled kitchen, the master bedroom with new curtains and a huge TV on the wall. I also photographed the small room where they had put us, the frayed wire, the damp spot, the folding cot, everything documented. We finished packing and left. We closed the door to the small room and walked towards the exit. In the living room, I paused for a moment. I looked around. Helen and I built this house. Every dollar invested here came from our work, and now we were leaving as if we were thieves. Let's go, Arthur, Helen said, taking my arm. It's not our home anymore. Not yet. We returned to the hotel and settled our things. Helen sat on one of the beds and sighed. You know what hurts the most? She said. What? That Robert didn't even ask where we slept last night. He didn't even care. She was right. Our son hadn't even noticed we didn't spend the night in the house. That afternoon, Patricia called Helen's cell phone. 20 missed calls. We finally answered. Where are you? Robert is worried. Your things are gone from the room. We left, Helen said calmly. What do you mean you left? Where did you go? That's not your problem, Patricia. But I need to talk to you. We need to fix things. There's nothing left to fix. You'll receive a notice tomorrow. Read it carefully. And Helen hung up. She looked at me with a mix of fear and determination. It's done, she said. There's no turning back. No, there's no turning back. That night we had dinner at a small restaurant near the hotel, burgers and a milkshake. Simple food, but we enjoyed it more than any dinner in the last few months. For the first time in a long time, we didn't feel that tightness in our chest, that fear of walking in our own home. The next day, at 3 the afternoon, Mr. Davis called us. The notice has been served. The server confirmed that both Robert and Patricia received it. They signed for it. How did they react? I asked. According to the server, Patricia became hysterical. Robert was in shock. He explained that they have 5 days to respond. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Now, prepare yourselves. They're going to try to contact you. They'll probably come to you. They'll cry. They'll promise to change. Don't fall for it. Stand firm. Don't worry. We've made our decision. I hung up just as the calls started coming in. Robert, Patricia, Robert again. WhatsApp messages, 10, 20, 30 messages. We didn't answer any of them. Around 5 the afternoon, there was a knock on the hotel room door. It was the receptionist. Mr. Miller, there's a young man downstairs who says he's your son. He's asking if he can speak with you. Helen and I looked at each other. Tell him to come up, I said finally. Minutes later, there was a knock on our room door. It was Robert. His eyes were red, his shirt wrinkled. He looked like he hadn't slept. Dad, Mom, he began, his voice breaking. What is this? A lawsuit? You're suing me? Sit down, Robert, I said, pointing to one of the chairs. I don't want to sit down. I want you to explain what's happening. Read the papers, Helen said in a calm voice. Everything is explained in there. Eviction? $65,000? Dad, this is a mistake. It's no mistake, son. It's exactly what happened. But I didn't. We didn't. Patricia said you had given us that money. She told you we gave her almost $70,000 and you didn't ask a single question? I said, raising my voice. Didn't that seem strange to you? She said it was for the remodeling, for the furniture, for... Robert, Helen interrupted. Your wife kicked us out of our bedroom. She threw our things on the lawn the day we came back from your aunt's funeral. She sent us to the utility room. Does that seem normal to you too? I didn't know she'd done that. When I got home, you were already in that room. I thought you had decided to move in there. We decided? I yelled. Who in their right mind decides to leave their own bedroom for a damp, windowless closet? Robert slumped into the chair. He covered his face with his hands. I don't know what happened, he whispered. Everything got out of control. Patricia said we needed to modernize the house, that it was for the baby, that you didn't need as much space anymore. I just wanted her to be happy. And what about us? Helen asked. We didn't matter? Of course you matter. You're my parents. Well, you didn't show it, son. You closed the door in our faces. You ignored us. You let your wife treat us like garbage. Robert was silent. Tears streamed down his face. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. Read the papers, I said. The options are in there. Either you vacate in 30 days, or you sign a lease and start paying rent. Part of that rent will go towards paying back what you took from us. Dad, we can't afford $1,200 a month in rent. Then you get a job, Robert. You're 38 years old. It's time you took responsibility. But Patricia is pregnant. She can't be stressed. Helen let out a bitter laugh. Patricia is going to have to learn to live with stress, like everyone else. The world doesn't revolve around her. Robert stood up. I need to talk to her. We need to think. You have 5 days, I reminded him. After that, if you don't respond, we proceed legally. He left without saying goodbye. We watched him walk towards the door, head down, defeated. I felt a pang of pain. He was my son, but I also felt rage for everything he had allowed, for everything he hadn't seen or hadn't wanted to see. That evening, Megan and Jack arrived. Megan arrived first, around 7. When we opened the hotel door, she threw herself on us, crying, Mom, Dad, why didn't you tell us sooner? We didn't want to worry you, honey, Helen said. Megan was 35. She was a middle school teacher in Chicago. She had inherited her mother's strong character. When she heard everything, her face transformed into pure indignation. I'm going to kill Robert, she said. And don't even mention that woman to me. Calm down, sweetie, I said. We're already taking legal action. Legal action? Dad, that's not enough. You need support. Where are you planning to live? We're going to look for a small apartment. We can afford it with the pension. You're coming to live with me, Megan said firmly. I have space. No, honey, your house is for you and your family. Mom, I have 3 bedrooms. The kids can share one, and you can have the other. It's not up for discussion. Jack arrived around 9 p.m. Taller than me, a systems engineer, he had always been the most pragmatic of the 3. When he entered the hotel room, he hugged his mom first, then me. Tell me everything again, he said. I want the details. We told him everything from the beginning. Jack took notes on his phone. When we finished, he shook his head. This is fraud. Plain and simple. Robert can claim he didn't know, but Patricia knew exactly what she was doing. You think so? Helen asked. Mom, nobody spends that kind of money without realizing it. This was planned. The question is, what else has she done that we don't know about? What do you mean? I asked. Dad, if Patricia was capable of taking almost all your money in 8 months, what else might she have done? Have you checked your credit cards? Have you checked if she took out loans in your names? No, we hadn't thought of that. Tomorrow we go to the bank and check everything. Absolutely everything. That night, the 4 of us had dinner in the hotel room. Megan had brought takeout from a restaurant. Jack went for sodas. We sat on the beds and chairs as best we could. For the first time in months, we felt like a family. The 3 children we raised with so much love, 2 of them there, supporting us. The 3rd, lost in a marriage that was destroying him. What's going to happen to Robert? Megan asked. I don't know, honey, I said. That's up to him, the decisions he makes. I talked to him, Jack said. He told me to. Well, he told me to stay out of it. That it was his life. He's blinded, Helen said. That woman has him completely manipulated. And the supposed baby? Megan asked. Have you seen any proof? An ultrasound? We fell silent. No, we hadn't seen anything, just Patricia's word. We'll find out tomorrow, Jack said. Everything will be cleared up tomorrow. The next morning, the 4 of us went to the bank. The manager saw us personally when we explained the situation. He checked all our accounts, all our transactions. Thank God there were no loans in our names. But he did find something else. Attempts to access our retirement account. 3 failed attempts with an incorrect password, all in the last 2 months. Someone tried to access this account, the manager explained. But since it has 2-factor authentication and you didn't authorize access from the phone, they couldn't get in. Who tried to get in? Jack asked. I can't say for sure, but the attempts were from the same IP address as the successful withdrawals from the other account. So it was the same person, Megan concluded. Robert or Patricia. Probably Patricia. The manager recommended we change all our passwords, activate transaction alerts, and put a freeze on our credit reports to prevent anyone from taking out loans in our names. We left the bank with more anger than when we went in. Not only had they stolen from us, they had tried to steal more. We need this as evidence, Jack said. I'm going to ask the manager for an official document of the access attempts. He went back into the bank and came out 10 minutes later with an envelope. Official documentation of everything. We're taking this to Mr. Davis today. We went to the office. Mr. Davis reviewed the new documents and whistled softly. This changes things. Unauthorized access attempt to protected accounts. That's a more serious crime. Can we add this to the complaint? How much jail time? Jack asked directly. It depends. If we can prove it was with intent to commit fraud, it could be 2 to 5 years. But first, we need Robert and Patricia to respond to the initial notice. It's been 3 days, Megan said. Have they said anything? Nothing. Total silence. That afternoon, Patricia finally called, but not us. She called Megan. My daughter put the phone on speaker so we could all hear. The red Mustang Mrs. Gable had mentioned was parked outside. It was new, gleaming, surely bought with our money. We went in quietly. The house was empty. We went straight to the small room and started packing the few things we had there. Clothes, important documents, the photos we had rescued. Nothing is private when you're using a supposed baby to manipulate my family. We're coming to your house tomorrow. Are you going to show us all the medical proof? Or are we going to a doctor together right now? You have no right. I have every right. They're my parents and my brother. And if you're lying about that pregnancy, I swear. Patricia hung up. Megan looked at us. Something's not right with that pregnancy. No pregnant woman refuses to show her ultrasounds. We show them off like trophies. Tomorrow we all go to the house, Jack said, and we clear this up once and for all. But that night, things took a turn. At 11 p.m., we got a call from the General Hospital. It was a nurse. Family of Robert Miller? Yes, this is his father, I said, my heart in my throat. Your son Robert is here in the emergency room. We need you to come. What happened? He had a nervous breakdown. He's stable, but we need to talk to you. The four of us arrived at the hospital. Robert was on a gurney, hooked up to an IV. He looked gaunt, with deep, dark circles under his eyes. When he saw us, he started to cry. I'm sorry, Dad, Mom. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We approached. Helen took his hand. What happened, son? I fought with Patricia. I asked her about the money, about the furniture, about everything. And she confessed. Confessed what? Jack asked. That there's no baby. There never was a baby. It was a lie. The room went silent. Helen put her hand to her mouth. Megan cursed under her breath. Jack and I looked at each other. Go on, son, I said. I asked for the proof, the ultrasounds, something, and she said she'd lost them, that the doctor had emailed them, and they got lost. Just excuses. So I told her we were going to the doctor together tomorrow, and that's when it all fell apart. Robert wiped tears with the back of his hand. She told me she was never pregnant. She made it up because I was about to get a job in Detroit and was planning to move. She didn't want to leave the house. She liked living there, having space, not paying rent. So she invented the baby so I wouldn't take the job. Son of a... Jack started, but Megan cut him off. What else did she tell you? Megan asked. That she sold the furniture without telling me, that she needed money to buy herself clothes and bags. That my parents were old and wouldn't need them anymore, that the house was going to be ours anyway when you died. So what did it matter if we started using it now? Helen started to cry. I felt such a rage that I had to leave the room for a moment. Jack followed me. Dad, calm down, I can't, Jack. That woman. I know, but right now Robert needs us. He's a wreck. He deserves to be a wreck. He left us for that liar. Yes, but he's our brother, and now he's asking for help. We went back into the room. The doctor had arrived and was checking on Robert. He had a severe anxiety attack, the doctor explained. His blood pressure shot up. He needs rest, therapy, and to get away from the source of his stress. Can we take him home? Helen asked. Yes, but someone should stay with him tonight, and he needs to see a psychologist soon. Robert was discharged from the hospital around 2 a.m. Megan took him to her hotel. Jack stayed with him. Helen and I went back to our room. I can't believe she's such a liar, Helen said, lying down. Everything was a lie. I know. So what do we do now? Tomorrow we talk to the lawyer. We tell him about the fake pregnancy. That changes everything. But Robert, what's going to happen to him? Robert has to decide what to do with his life. We can't decide for him anymore. The next morning, Robert appeared in our room. He was carrying a suitcase. I'm leaving the house, he said. I can't stay there with her. Where will you go? Helen asked. Megan offered to let me stay at her place until I get on my feet. I'm going to look for a job. I'm going to pay you back every cent I owe you, even if it takes me years. Robert, I said, before you go, do something for me. What? We need you to officially declare to Mr. Davis everything Patricia told you last night. The fake pregnancy, the furniture, everything. We need your testimony. Robert nodded. I'll do it. It's the least I can do. That same morning, we all went to Mr. Davis's office. Robert sat in front of the desk and told him everything. The lawyer took notes, recording the testimony with Robert's consent. Are you willing to sign a sworn affidavit of all this? The lawyer asked. Yes, whatever you need. Good. Now I need to ask you something delicate. Did you know the cash withdrawals were so large? Not at first. Patricia handled the finances. She told me it was for home improvements, to pay off debts. I believed her. By the time I realized the real amounts, it was too late. I tried to talk to her, but she told me I was worrying for nothing, that my parents had plenty of money saved. And the mahogany furniture? I didn't even know she'd sold it until my parents told me. Patricia just said she'd swapped it for more modern pieces. I thought she'd stored it somewhere. The lawyer finished writing and passed the papers to Robert to sign. "With this, we can proceed in two ways," he explained. "We can sue only Patricia for fraud and misappropriation, leaving Robert out of it, or we can keep the joint lawsuit until Patricia vacates." "Which do you recommend?" I asked. "I would recommend suing only Patricia. Robert was clearly a victim of her manipulation as well. But we need Patricia out of that house immediately. If Robert signs a voluntary eviction and she refuses, we can legally force her out." "Do it that way," Helen said. "Robert?" the lawyer asked. My son looked at us with tears in his eyes. "Do whatever you have to do. I'll sign whatever is necessary." The documents were prepared. Robert signed the voluntary eviction from the house. He committed to paying back the $65,300 in monthly payments of $600 for nearly 9 years, plus interest. It was a huge debt, but it was the only way to fix things. "Now comes the hard part," said the lawyer, "notifying Patricia that she has 72 hours to vacate. If she doesn't, the police will have to remove her." "That fast?" Megan asked. "When there is proven fraud and the owner requests immediate eviction, yes. Plus, Robert no longer lives there, so she has no legal right to be on that property." That afternoon, the notice was served to Patricia. The process server called to inform us that she had torn up the papers in front of him, screaming that it was her house, that she was pregnant, that she was going to sue all of us. "It's not necessary, Dad, please, let me help. You've suffered enough." I hung up with tears in my eyes. Helen came over. She was crying too. "What did Jack say?" "He's coming tomorrow." "And Megan is furious too. She says she can't believe Robert would do this to you." We hugged each other right there on the street, not caring who saw us. Messages started coming in from people who knew us, asking if it was true, criticizing us, calling us heartless. "We have to respond," Jack said. "We can't let her control the narrative." "No," Mr. Davis intervened when we consulted him. "Don't respond on social media. That will only make things worse. Let her talk. When the truth comes out, all those people will see who she really is." But it was painful. We received horrible messages. They called us soulless monsters, asking how we could kick out a pregnant woman. Some neighbors even organized a collection to help Patricia. "This is killing me," Helen said, crying. "People think we're the bad guys." "The truth always comes out," I said, hugging her. "Be patient." On the third day, Patricia was still in the house. She had changed the locks. When the lawyer tried to contact her, she didn't answer. The deadline passed, and she hadn't left. "We'll have to go with the police," the lawyer informed us. "First thing tomorrow morning." That night, we received an unexpected call. It was a woman who identified herself as Beatrice, Patricia's mother. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller?" "Yes," Helen said. "I need to see you. It's urgent. It's about my daughter." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day, before the eviction. Beatrice arrived with a large manila envelope. She was a woman in her 60s, elegant, but with a face marked by worry. "I can't tell you how sorry I am for all of this," she began. "I knew Patricia had problems, but I never thought she'd go this far." "What problems?" Helen asked. Beatrice opened the envelope and started taking out documents, bank statements, receipts, printed messages. "My daughter is a compulsive shopper. She's had this problem since her 22nd. Her father and I have paid off her debts 3 times. We thought with Robert she would change, that she would settle down. She kept pulling out papers. This is from a department store. She owes $20,000. This is from another, $15,000. This is a personal loan she took out from a loan shark. $8,000. My God," Helen whispered. "But there's something else," Beatrice continued, her voice breaking. "Something you need to know before the eviction." "What is it?" She took out some medical documents. "Patricia can't have children. She has a condition called Asherman syndrome. She had a partial hysterectomy 5 years ago. It's impossible for her to be pregnant." "So it was all a lie from the beginning," I said, feeling the rage build again. "Yes, and there's more. I found this on her phone." Beatrice took out her cell phone and showed us screenshots of conversations between Patricia and a friend. In the messages, Patricia was laughing at us. She said we were 2 foolish old people who would swallow anything, that the house would be hers soon, that she just had to wait for us to die or put us in a home. There was one particularly cruel message. I explained she has 72 hours, the server told us, but frankly, I don't think she'll go quietly. The next morning, Patricia began her strategy. She posted a dramatic story on Facebook about how her elderly in-laws were kicking her, a pregnant woman, out onto the street, about how her husband had abandoned her, about how she was alone and helpless. The posts went viral in the neighborhood groups. Why? What did we ever do to her? Nothing, honey, I said, hugging her. We did nothing. This is who she is. We went back to the coffee shop. Beatrice was still there, crying silently. Why are you telling us all this? I asked her. Because it's the right thing to do. Because my daughter needs professional help, not more victims. Because you don't deserve this. And because I'm afraid of what she might do if she's not stopped now. Afraid of what? Beatrice looked at us directly. Patricia has scammed other people before. 2 of her ex-boyfriends. One sued her, but she disappeared. The other decided not to press charges. I thought with you it would be different because you're Robert's family, but I was wrong. She's not going to stop on her own. She needs real consequences. Would you testify against your own daughter? Jack asked, incredulous. Beatrice nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. If that's what it takes for her to get real help, yes, I can't keep covering up her lies anymore. Her father is sick with a heart condition because of all this. We can't take it anymore. She left us all the documents. Evidence of the debts, the messages, the medical reports. It was more than we needed. It was devastating. We took everything to Mr. Davis. When he saw the documents, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. This is enough to sink her legally. With this and the mother's testimony, Patricia will face serious criminal charges. Fraud, document forgery, if she used fake medical reports, emotional extortion. When is the eviction? Megan asked. In 2 hours. At 11, the officers arrive. We're all going, Jack said. We need to be there. We arrived at the house at 11 o'clock sharp. There were 2 police cars parked outside. Several neighbors had gathered on the street watching. Mr. Davis was there with 2 police officers and a court official. Patricia came out when they knocked on the door. We're taking this to Mr. Davis today. We went to the office. Mr. Davis reviewed the new documents and whistled softly. This changes things. Unauthorized access attempt to protected accounts. That's a more serious crime. Can we add this to the complaint? How much jail time? Jack asked directly. It depends. What will happen to my baby? The neighbors murmured. Some looked at us with contempt. Mrs. Gable approached Patricia with a glass of water. Then Beatrice stepped forward. Patricia, stop, she said in a firm voice. Mom? Patricia looked genuinely surprised. What are you doing here? I came to tell the truth. There's no baby, Patricia. There never was. The murmur among the neighbors intensified. Patricia turned pale. Mom, what are you saying? Of course there's a baby. Beatrice walked up to her and pulled the pillow out from under her dress. Patricia tried to stop her but couldn't. The pillow fell to the ground. The silence was absolute. The neighbors' jaws dropped. Patricia was frozen, the empty maternity dress hanging off her body. There is no baby, Beatrice repeated. There can't be a baby. She had a partial hysterectomy. The medical documents are with the lawyer. Patricia looked at her with a hatred that chilled the blood. You betrayed me. No, honey. I'm saving you from yourself. This has to stop. Patricia turned to us. You ruined everything. That house was going to be mine. Robert was mine. Everything was perfect until you came back from that stupid funeral. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, you have 10 minutes to take your personal belongings and leave. If you don't, we will have to physically escort you. Patricia looked at all of us with contempt. She went into the house and started throwing things, screaming. We could hear glass breaking, doors slamming. She's destroying the property, the lawyer said to the officers. They went in to restrain her. We waited outside. The neighbors were still there, but now the murmurs had changed. I heard snippets of conversation. I knew something wasn't right. Poor Mr. and Mrs. Miller. And we were collecting money for her. Mrs. Gable came over to us with tears in her eyes. Forgive me, I believed her. I even yelled at you last week when you left. Don't worry, Mrs. Gable, Helen said. She's very convincing. They brought Patricia out in handcuffs. She had hit one of the officers when he tried to stop her from smashing the TV. They put her in the patrol car amidst shouts and threats. "I'll sue all of you. This isn't over. You'll pay for this." The patrol car drove away. We stood there, in front of our house that was finally empty of lies and manipulation. "Do you want to go in?" the lawyer asked. The four of us went in: Helen, me, Megan, and Jack. The place was a disaster. Patricia had broken several things before they stopped her. The TV screen was cracked. There were broken plates in the kitchen, paintings thrown on the floor. But it was our house again. Helen walked slowly through the living room, touching the walls as if reacquainting herself with a place from which she had been exiled. She went into what had been our bedroom, sat on the bed, and began to cry. I sat next to her and held her. We cried together, not from sadness but from relief, from liberation. Megan and Jack started to clean up the mess, picking up what Patricia had thrown, sweeping up the broken glass. "We'll fix this," Megan said. "We'll make it like it was before." "Not like it was before," I corrected her. "Better than before." The following days were a mix of physical and emotional cleaning. We painted the walls, repaired what was broken, got rid of the new furniture Patricia had bought with our money, and recovered some of our old pieces that we found in a storage unit. Robert came to help. He worked in silence, carrying boxes, painting walls. He looked gaunt, tired, but there was something different about him, a determination I hadn't seen in years. "Dad," he said to me one day while we were painting the living room, "I got a job." "You did, son?" "Where?" "In a warehouse. It's not much, but it pays well. And I'm looking for a second job for the weekends. I'm going to make the payments. I promise you." "I know, son." "And I'm also going to a therapist. Megan helped me find one." "I'm glad to hear that. I have to understand why I let this happen, why I didn't see the signs, why I failed you all so badly." "You didn't just fail us, Robert. You failed yourself. I know, and I'm going to fix that too." A week after Patricia's arrest, we got a call from Beatrice. Her husband had had a heart attack. He was in the hospital, stable but in serious condition. The doctor said it was the stress, she told us, crying. "This whole thing with Patricia broke him." "We're so sorry, Beatrice," Helen said. "How can we help?" "You've already helped. Patricia is undergoing a psychiatric evaluation at the county jail. They're going to determine if she needs treatment." I felt a pang of pain. He was my son. But I also felt rage for everything he had allowed, for everything he hadn't seen or hadn't wanted to see. That evening, Megan and Jack arrived. Megan arrived first, around 7. When we opened the hotel door, she threw herself on us, crying, "Mom, Dad, why didn't you tell us sooner?" "We didn't want to worry you, honey," Helen said. Mr. Davis explained that Patricia would likely receive probation if she agreed to psychiatric treatment and paying restitution. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. A month later, the house was almost restored. We had gotten some furniture back, bought some new pieces. The master bedroom was ours again, with the curtains Helen had sewn, with our queen bed back in its place, with photos of our children on the walls. Robert made his first payment, $600 exactly. He came one Sunday afternoon with the envelope in his hand. "This is the first of many," he said, handing it to me. "Thank you, son. Don't thank me. It's the least I can do." He sat with us in the living room. Helen served him coffee and donuts. For the first time in months, a quiet conversation between parents and son. "How's therapy going?" Helen asked. Maybe this is the best thing that could have happened to her. We dropped the charges of assaulting an officer so that Patricia could receive treatment instead of more prison time, but we kept the fraud charges. It was important that there were consequences. "But you're here," Helen said. "You're acknowledging your mistakes and working to change. That's more than most people do." Robert wiped his eyes. "I love you both. And I'm so sorry for everything." "We know, son. We know." That afternoon, after Robert left, the phone rang. It was Mr. Davis. "I have news. Patricia accepted a plea deal. She's pleading guilty to fraud. She got 3 years of probation, mandatory psychiatric treatment, and she has to pay restitution. If she breaks any of the conditions, she goes straight to prison. And Robert's divorce? It was finalized last week. Patricia signed without a fight. She had no choice. Frankly, with all the charges against her, any lawyer would have advised her not to complicate things further. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for everything. That's what I'm here for. And Arthur, Helen, you did the right thing. It wasn't easy, but it was right. That night, Helen and I sat in the yard. We had replanted the geraniums that Patricia had torn out. They were still small, but they were growing. Do you know what day it is? Helen asked me. I thought for a moment. November 16th. Exactly 2 months since we came back from Rose's funeral and found our things on the lawn. 2 months. It feels like 2 years, or 2 lifetimes. So much has changed, I said. Yes. But you know what, Arthur? I think Rose helped us from wherever she is. If we hadn't gone to her funeral, if we had been here when Patricia made her move, maybe we would have stayed quiet. Maybe we would have accepted everything without a fight. You're right. Rose was always a fighter. She passed some of that on to us. Helen smiled. I miss her. Me too. We sat in silence for a while, holding hands, watching the stars begin to appear in the Cleveland sky. The following months brought a new routine. Robert came every 2 weeks with his payment, religiously. Sometimes he stayed for dinner, sometimes he just dropped off the envelope and left. We were rebuilding the relationship slowly, carefully, like someone walking on broken glass. Megan visited every month with her kids. Jack came when he could, which wasn't often because of his job, but we talked on the phone every week. The house filled with life again. We started inviting our old friends over on Sundays again. Helen resumed her catechism classes at the parish. I joined a group of retirees who played dominoes in the park. Patricia completed 6 months of probation without any issues. According to Beatrice, she was living with them, working at a laundromat, and going to therapy. We hadn't seen her again, and that was fine. One Sunday in April, 6 months after the eviction, Robert arrived with someone, a short young woman with a shy smile, carrying a chocolate cake. Dad, Mom, I'd like you to meet Sophia. We work together at the warehouse. Nice to meet you, Sophia said, extending her hand. Robert has told me a lot about you. Helen and I looked at each other. There was nervousness in Robert's eyes, but also something else. Hope. Come in, Sophia, Helen said warmly. Sit down. Coffee or tea? Coffee, please. It was a pleasant afternoon. Sophia was a primary school teacher, working at the warehouse on weekends to pay for a master's degree. She was smart, direct, down to earth, the complete opposite of Patricia. When they left, Helen looked at me. That girl is good people. Yes. And Robert seems different with her. More like himself. I hope he learns from his mistakes. He is. I can see it in his eyes. In July, we received a certified letter. It was from Patricia. We opened it together, our hands trembling. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I know I have no right to ask you for anything after everything I did. My therapist suggested I write this letter as part of my process. I want you to know that I understand the harm I caused you. You opened the doors of your home to me, and I repaid you with theft, lies, and cruelty. I don't expect your forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I am working on being a better person. I have already paid $5,000 in restitution for the money I stole from you. I will continue to pay until the last penny is returned. My mom and dad also apologize for my behavior. I am deeply sorry for everything. Patricia. Helen folded the letter in silence. What do you think? I asked. I think it's a start. I don't forgive her yet. Maybe I never will completely. But it's a start. We put the letter in a drawer. We didn't reply. It wasn't the time yet. In September, a year after it all began, we organized a family dinner. Robert arrived with Sophia, Megan with her husband and 2 kids. Jack came alone. He had broken up with his girlfriend a few months ago, but he seemed okay. The table was full pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. The house smelled of home cooking, of family, of home. I'd like to make a toast, Robert said, standing up with his glass of iced tea. To my parents, who taught me that love also means setting boundaries, that sometimes saying no is the greatest way of saying I love you. I failed you terribly, but you never stopped being my parents. Thank you for not giving up on me. We all raised our glasses. Helen was crying silently. I felt a lump in my throat. And I want to say something too, Jack intervened. Dad, Mom, you taught us that dignity isn't a gift, that family is important, but self-respect is essential. Many people in your situation would have stayed quiet and put up with it. You stood up. That's courage. Megan nodded. And you taught us that it's never too late to fight for what's yours. You're in your 60 seconds and you fought like warriors. We're not warriors, Helen said, wiping her tears. We're just two old folks who didn't want to be walked all over. That's exactly what a warrior is, Sophia said shyly. Someone who fights when it would be easier to surrender. We had dinner amidst laughter and stories. The grandkids ran around the yard. The house vibrated with life. It was as it should be, as it always should have been. After dinner, when everyone had left, Helen and I sat in the rocking chair on the porch. We had found our old rocker at a flea market. We bought it back for a fraction of its worth. We restored it together, sanding and varnishing it. Arthur, Helen said, leaning on my shoulder. Do you think we did the right thing? In what sense? In everything. Suing Robert, kicking out Patricia, being so harsh. We did the only thing we could do, defend our dignity, but it was so painful, so difficult. The right things are almost always difficult, I said. If it had been easy, it wouldn't have been worth it. She nodded. Sometimes I still wake up at night and think about that utility room, about how we felt those days. Me too. But then I look around and see our house back. I see Robert trying to recover. I see our other children proud of us, and I know it was worth it. In October, some unexpected news arrived. Beatrice called to tell us that Patricia's father had passed away. His heart couldn't take it. We went to the wake, not for Patricia, but for Beatrice, who had been honest with us when we needed it most. Patricia was there, dressed in black, thinner, with short hair. When she saw us, she froze. We went over to offer our condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss, Helen told her. Thank you, Patricia whispered without looking us in the eye. I didn't expect you to come. We came for your mother. She was very brave with us. I know. She saved my life, though I didn't understand it at the time. We stood in an awkward silence for a moment. How are you doing? I finally asked. Better. I'm working, paying my debts, going to therapy. It's not the life I imagined, but it's an honest one, and that's more than I've had in years. I'm glad to hear it. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, she said, finally looking me in the eye. I know it sounds empty after everything, but I truly am sorry. I wake up every day regretting it. We all make mistakes, Patricia, Helen said. The important thing is to learn from them. I'm trying. I really am trying. We said our goodbyes and left the funeral home. In the car, Helen took my hand. Do you think she can really change? I don't know, but at least she's trying. That's more than she was doing before. November came again, a full year since that terrible afternoon when we returned from Rose's funeral. Helen and I went to the cemetery to visit her. Hello, little sister, I said to the headstone. A lot has happened since you left. Terrible things, but good things too. You gave us strength without knowing it. When we were coming back from your funeral, so tired, so sad, and we found that disaster, some of your fighting spirit rubbed off on us. Helen placed fresh flowers in the vase. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for teaching us not to give up. That evening, we organized a small gathering at home, just the two of us, Robert, Megan, and Jack, an intimate dinner to mark the anniversary. It's been a crazy year, Megan said, raising her glass. But we came out stronger. Not all of us came out, Robert said sadly. Beatrice's father didn't make it. That's why it's important to learn from all this, Jack intervened. Decisions have consequences. Bad decisions have serious consequences. Robert nodded. I know. Believe me, I know. I carry that with me every day. But you're also building something new, Helen reminded him. Don't get stuck in the past. I'm trying, Mom. Sophia helps me a lot. She keeps me grounded. Is it serious with her? Megan asked. Robert smiled for the first time that night. Yes, very serious. In fact, I'm going to propose to her on Christmas. Helen nearly spit out her water. So soon? Mom, I'm 39 years old. I'm not getting any younger, and Sophia is different. She's real. With her, there are no games or manipulation, just honesty. I'm happy for you, son, I said. Just make sure it's for the right reasons. It is, Dad. This time it is. In December, Robert made his 12th payment. $7,200 paid of the total. He still owed a lot, but he was keeping up. A letter from the court also arrived. Patricia had completed her year of probation without incident. Her therapist reported significant progress. She had paid back a good portion of her restitution. Things were moving forward, slowly but surely. On Christmas Eve, the house was full again. Megan and her family, Jack with his new girlfriend, Laura, Robert, and Sophia, 12 people around the table. Turkey, stuffing, eggnog, laughter. Robert stood up in the middle of dinner. He had a small box in his hand. "Sophia," he said, kneeling beside her, "I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've made terrible mistakes in the past, but with you, I've learned what a real relationship is, one based on respect, communication, and honesty. Will you marry me?" Sophia was crying. "Yes, Robert, yes, I will." The table erupted in applause. Helen and I hugged. It was a new beginning for Robert, a chance to do it right. After dinner, while everyone was in the living room exchanging gifts, Robert called me aside. "Dad, I want to ask you something. Tell me, son, can Sophia and I get married here, in the backyard? I know I have no right to ask for anything after everything, but this place is important to me. It's where I learned the hardest lessons of my life." I thought for a moment. I looked at Helen, who had overheard the conversation from the doorway. She nodded. "Of course, son. This is still your house. It always will be. Only now, things are different. There's respect, there are boundaries, there's honesty. Thank you, Dad. I won't let you down again. I swear." "I hope so, Robert. I hope so." The wedding was set for June. 6 months to plan, for Robert to save, for them to do things right from the start. In January, 2 years after it all began, Patricia finished her probation. She had met all the conditions: therapy, payments, a steady job. Beatrice called to give us the news. She's moving to Austin, she told us. She got a job at a cleaning company. She wants to start over where no one knows her. "We wish her the best," Helen said sincerely. "She wants to talk to you before she goes. If you'll agree." "Of course." We looked at each other. 2 years had passed. We had healed a lot. Maybe it was time to close that chapter completely. "Let her come," I told Beatrice. Patricia arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. She wore simple clothes, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked years older, but also more real. We sat in the living room, the same room where everything had started to fall apart. "Thank you for seeing me," she said in a trembling voice. "I didn't expect you to agree." "Sit down, Patricia," Helen said, pointing to the armchair. Patricia sat on the edge of the seat, nervous, her hands clasped in her lap. "I came to say goodbye. I'm moving to Austin in 2 weeks, and I needed to talk to you before I left." "We're listening," I said. She took a deep breath. "For 2 years I've been in therapy. At first I didn't want to be there. I thought everyone was against me, that I was the victim. But slowly, I started to see the truth. I have a personality disorder. I'm a compulsive shopper, and for years I used people to support my lifestyle." She paused, wiping away the tears that began to roll down her cheeks. "When I met Robert, I saw an opportunity, a good man, from a stable family, with a house to live in. I didn't fall in love with him. I fell in love with what he represented, the stability I never had. And when you were generous with me, when you opened the doors of your home to me, I saw weakness. I saw older people I could manipulate." Helen squeezed my hand. I remained silent. "The fake pregnancy was my idea from the beginning," Patricia continued. "I knew that way Robert wouldn't take the job in Detroit. I knew you wouldn't kick us out if you thought a baby was coming. It was all calculated. Every lie, every manipulation." "Why?" Helen asked, her voice breaking. "Why so much hate?" "It wasn't hate. It was worse. It was indifference. You weren't people to me. You were obstacles, resources. I didn't think about the harm I was causing because frankly I didn't care." The silence filled the room. Patricia was now crying uncontrollably. "What hurts me the most now is realizing how much good you did for me when I didn't deserve it. You welcomed me into your home, you treated me like family, and I repaid you with the worst betrayal. I threw your memories on the lawn, sold your treasures for nothing. I humiliated you in your own house." She wiped her face with a tissue Helen had given her. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand the damage I did, and I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. I've paid back a significant amount so far. I will keep paying until I return every dollar, even if it takes the rest of my life. We know, I said. The lawyer keeps us informed. I also want you to know that Robert is a good person. He didn't know about most of the things I did. I manipulated him, confused him, made him feel guilty if he questioned anything. Robert's mistake was loving me too much and believing everything I said, but he was never malicious towards you. We know, Helen said. That's why we're rebuilding our relationship with him. I'm glad to hear that. He deserves to be happy. He deserves a family that truly loves him, not someone who uses him. Patricia stood up. I think I've said everything I had to say. I just wanted to look you in the eyes and tell you, I'm sorry. Deeply, from the bottom of my broken soul. I'm sorry. She walked to the door. Patricia, Helen called out. She turned. We wish you the best in Austin. May you find peace. May you build an honest life for yourself. Patricia nodded, unable to speak. She left the house, and we never saw her again. That night, Helen and I stayed up late. Do you think she's really changed? She asked me. I think she's trying. I don't know if she'll succeed, but at least she's trying. And that's more than we expected 2 years ago. Do you forgive her? I don't know if forgive is the word. But I don't feel anger when I think of her anymore. I feel nothing. And maybe that's enough. Helen nodded. I feel the same. It doesn't poison me anymore. It's over. March came with the first spring rains. Robert continued to make his payments. He was on payment number 18. The wedding was planned for June. Sophia came to the house often, helping Helen in the kitchen, chatting with us. It was like having another daughter. One day, Robert arrived with papers in his hand. He had a huge smile. What happened? Helen asked. I got a better job at a logistics company. The salary is almost double what I was making. I'll be able to increase the payments. Instead of $600 a month, I'll be able to pay $1,000. Son, that's wonderful, I said, hugging him. And there's more. Sophia and I found an apartment. It's small, but it's ours. We're going to rent it after the wedding. I'm not going to live with Megan anymore. I'm going to have my own place, built with my own effort. We're proud of you, Helen said with tears in her eyes. So proud. I still have a lot to pay off. I still have a lot to prove. But I'm on the right path. For the first time in my life, I'm doing things right. In April, we celebrated Helen's 67th birthday. A small party in the yard, flowers everywhere, a 3-layer cake Megan made, Frank Sinatra music she loved so much playing on the stereo. Everyone was there, our 3 children, our grandchildren, our old friends, Mrs. Gable and other neighbors. The yard vibrated with laughter and conversation. Helen blew out the candles surrounded by family. I asked her to say her wish out loud. I don't need to wish for anything anymore, she said, smiling. I already have everything I need. My family together, my home at peace, my dignity intact. That night, after everyone had left, we cleaned the kitchen together, as we had done for 44 years of marriage. I washed, she dried. A perfect rhythm, a choreography of decades. You know what I'm most grateful for in all of this? She said to me while drying a plate. What? That it happened to us together. That we face this as a team. Many marriages would have broken under a crisis like this. We became stronger. We've always been a team, Helen, since the day we got married. I know, but this proved it. And we passed the test. May arrived with wedding preparations. Robert and Sophia wanted something simple. 50 people in the yard, a civil ceremony, a luncheon. Nothing extravagant. They were paying for everything themselves without asking for help. They wanted to start their marriage without debt, without pending favors. We helped where we could. Helen made the cake. I fixed up the yard. I trimmed the hedges, painted the fence. The yard that had witnessed so much sadness would now witness a new beginning. The week before the wedding, Robert asked to speak with me alone. We sat on the porch where so many important conversations had taken place. Dad, I want you to be my best man at the wedding. Of course, son. It would be an honor. And I want to tell you something else, something I've been saving. Tell me. He opened his wallet and took out an envelope. Inside was a check for $15,000. "What's this?" I asked, confused. "I sold the Mustang, the one Patricia bought with your money. I sold it and added my savings. I want to pay off a large part of the debt at once. I'll still have about $18,000 left, but with the new job I can pay that off in 2 years. I want to start my marriage without that heavy debt on my shoulders." "Son, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did, Dad. I need to do this. I need to prove to myself that I can be responsible, that I can keep my promises." I took the check with trembling hands, $15,000. It was a huge amount. It meant sacrifice, effort, real change. "Thank you, son. This means a lot." "No, Dad. Thank you and Mom for not giving up on me, for setting the boundaries I needed, for loving me enough to tell me no." We hugged there on the porch, a long hug, the kind that heals deep wounds. When we pulled apart, we both had tears in our eyes. The wedding was perfect. A sunny June day, the yard full of white and yellow flowers. Sophia looked beautiful, in a simple, ivory-colored dress. Robert wore a new suit he had bought with his own money. Nothing borrowed, nothing gifted, all honestly earned. The justice of the peace married them under the dogwood tree I had planted 30 years ago. Helen cried with happiness. Megan and Jack were there, supporting their brother. The grandkids ran between the chairs. Mrs. Gable and the neighbors applauded. When the justice said, "You may kiss the bride," Robert and Sophia embraced. And in that moment, I felt a cycle close, the cycle of pain, betrayal, and deceit, and a new one open, a cycle of honesty, hard work, and true love. At the reception, Robert gave a speech. He stood in front of everyone with Sophia by his side. "I want to thank everyone for being here, especially my parents. 2 years ago, I was at the lowest point of my life. I had lost my way, I had let myself be manipulated, I had failed the people I love most. My parents could have turned their backs on me, they could have cut me out of their lives forever, and no one would have blamed them." He paused, controlling his emotion. "But instead, they gave me something more valuable than easy forgiveness. They gave me consequences, they gave me boundaries, they forced me to face what I had done. And that, though it hurt at the time, was the best gift they could have given me. It gave me back my dignity. It taught me how to be a real man." He looked at Sophia. "This woman by my side is not like my ex-wife. She doesn't want me to be her provider or her ticket to an easy life. She wants a partner, an equal, someone to build something real with. And I can do that now because I learned the hardest lessons of my life." He turned to us. "Dad, Mom, thank you for not giving me my dignity. Thank you for forcing me to earn it back myself. I love you more than words can say." There wasn't a dry eye in the yard. Helen and I hugged, crying. Our son had come back, not the one who had left, not the one who had been manipulated and lost, but a new one, stronger, more aware, more real. The party lasted until the sun went down. Music, dancing, laughter. Robert and Sophia danced their first dance as husband and wife. Then Robert danced with Helen, and I danced with Sophia. Then we all danced together, a family rebuilt on a more solid foundation. When the newlyweds left for their new apartment that night, Helen and I stayed in the yard. The string lights we had hung were still glowing. There were dishes to wash, chairs to put away, but they could wait. We sat in the rocking chair, squeezed together as always. I looked at the yard where we had found our things thrown almost 2 years ago. Now it was full of flowers, of life, of new, good memories. "We made it," Helen said in a low voice. "Yes, we made it." There were times I thought we wouldn't survive this. Me too. But here we are. Here we are. The geraniums Helen had replanted were now full and blooming. Their red flowers shone in the moonlight. Everything that had died or been torn out had grown back, stronger, more resilient. "You know what I learned from all this?" I asked Helen. "What?" "That true love isn't just acceptance. It's also boundaries. It's saying no when you have to. It's letting people face the consequences of their actions, even if it hurts. It's loving someone enough to be tough when you have to be." Helen nodded. "And we learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, that at 65 you still have a right to your dignity, that age doesn't mean you have to put up with mistreatment." We stayed there late, rocking gently, watching the stars, the same rocking chair where we had sat so many nights during our marriage, but this night was special. It was the closing of a painful chapter and the beginning of a new one. The following months brought peace. Robert faithfully made his increased payments, $1,000 each month. He visited every Sunday with Sophia. Sometimes he helped in the yard, sometimes we just talked. The relationship was rebuilding slowly, with patience, with honesty. Megan and Jack continued to be our unwavering support. Megan visited every month. Jack called every week. The family that had been on the verge of breaking was now more united than ever. Beatrice called us from time to time with news of Patricia. She was doing well in Austin. She was working, paying her debts, going to therapy. She had met a man, an older widower with grown children, a slow relationship, no rush, no games. Perhaps she would find her redemption after all. In December, a year and a half after the wedding, Robert and Sophia gave us some news. They were expecting a baby, a real baby this time, a grandchild due in June. Helen cried with joy. I felt the circle was complete, new life, new opportunities, new beginnings. The baby was born on June 20th, a healthy boy weighing 7 pounds. They named him Arthur, after me. When I held him for the first time in the hospital, I felt a love so deep I thought my heart would burst. This little guy will never grow up in a house of lies, Robert told me as we watched the baby. He'll grow up knowing what respect, honesty, and hard work are. I know, son, I know. Now, a year after that birth, as I write these lines, I look back and see the entire journey. 3 years since that terrible afternoon when we found our things on the lawn. 3 years of pain, of struggle, of rebuilding. Helen and I are now 68 years old. Our house is ours again, completely. Robert finished paying off his debt 3 months ago. The money Patricia owed is a smaller, manageable amount she continues to pay from Austin. We no longer feel anger about it, it's just a number that keeps going down. Robert and Sophia are thriving. He got a promotion. She finished her master's degree. Little Art is now a year old and walks through our yard. The same yard that witnessed our downfall is now his playground. Megan and Jack are still our pride. Good children, good people, always there for us. This afternoon, as Helen waters her geraniums and I watch my grandson play, I think about everything we lost and everything we gained. We lost money. Yes, a significant amount. We lost years of peace. We lost our innocence, our ability to trust blindly. But we gained something more valuable. We gained self-respect. We gained the certainty that even at our age we can defend ourselves. We gained clear boundaries with our children. We gained a more honest, more real, stronger family. And above all, we learned that dignity isn't a gift, that true love includes boundaries, that it's never too late to stand up. I watch the stars begin to come out in the Cleveland sky and take Helen's hand. You know what, honey? What, dear? If I had to go through it all again to get to this moment, I would. She smiles. Me too. Every tear, every fight, every sleepless night. It was all worth it to get here. Little Art toddles over with a geranium flower in his hand. He gives it to his grandmother. Helen picks him up and covers him with kisses. This is our victory, not the recovered house or the returned money. Our victory is this moment, a family reunited, honest, happy. A garden that has bloomed again. A life rebuilt on a more solid foundation. It's getting dark. The three of us go into the house. Our house. The one we defended with tooth and nail, the one we almost lost, the one we reclaimed, not just with legal papers, but with courage, with boundaries, with true love. And as I close the door with my wife on one side and my grandson on the other, I know with certainty that we did the right thing, that defending our dignity was the best decision we could have ever made. Because in the end, what matters isn't what you have, but who you are. And we are still Arthur and Helen Miller. 68 years old, 46 years married, still standing, still together, still with dignity, and that is something no one can ever take from us.